New York Knicks trade talks are escalating as the Knicks are targeting veteran wing Javonte Green for a potential trade target at the deadline while the Knicks look to improve their bench. And this works out perfectly for the Knicks as Green is a great fit and also aligns perfectly financially for the Knicks to trade Jericho Sims for Javonte Green, a trade that's already been teased and that we've talked about a bit on this channel. And we're going to break all this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. And guys, if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe. If you're part of the 68% of people not subscribing, want daily New York Knicks news, updates, reports on rumors, fun live streams, TikToks, a bunch of fun stuff, make sure to subscribe. It really does help out the channel as well and helps me out personally. But guys, let's jump into this. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Javonte Green. Javonte Green is a perfect player for any contending team, but for some reason he's been stuck on non-contenders. The Pelicans have had a massively disappointing year because of all the injuries that they've suffered. Meanwhile, he was on the Chicago Bulls prior to that, and for some reason the Bulls never traded him when they could have netted a second-round asset or two for him, but never did that. And now Javonte Green is going to get traded at the deadline as he is on a one-year contract, and it makes absolutely no sense for the Pelicans to not get a second-round pick or two or a more valuable player to them in exchange for Javonte Green, who's a very good role player who plays very hard and would fit perfectly on the New York Knicks, a team that needs more backup wings. The Knicks have an issue. They don't really have any backup wings. They have Landry Shamet, who's undersized, and given well, he's the same size as Javonte Green, but Javonte Green plays bigger than being 6'4". And Shamet himself, personally, has not been playing very well this season, so it makes sense for the Knicks to target Javonte Green. Now, taking a look at the actual report, it was mentioned that by Brett Sigel that while they can't move out of the second apron, the Boston Celtics are a team exploring avenues to potentially save money by trading Jaden Springer's $4 million contract, and Pelicans swingman Javonte Green is a player the Celtics hold interest in. But New Orleans doesn't want to take back more money, while the Bucks, Nuggets, and Knicks have also been mentioned as teams holding a level of interest in Javonte Green. Well, the Pelicans don't want to take back more money, and that's perfect for the New York Knicks because, we're going to make this bigger, because, part two, Javonte Green can be traded for Jericho Sims. Now, no, this is not the most enticing trade package to trade just Jericho Sims for Javonte Green for the Pelicans, but it does make some sense, especially if the Knicks attach a first or not a first, 1 or 2 second-round picks for Green, with one of them being protected and the other one being an unprotected second-round pick. It just makes sense for the Pelicans to want to do this trade. They need a backup big man, as Yves Missy does look like he'll be their center of the future. However, they don't really have a backup guy. The Pelicans like to throw lobs, specifically DeJounte Murray likes to throw lobs. My head is not in it right now. I'm forgetting names and stuff. I've had to re-record this video 3 times already, man. But we're good. We're on it. Look, Javonte Green is an absolutely awesome role player, and he would help out the Knicks a ton. Though Fanspo believes that he would not give the Knicks any more wins, I think that is so incorrect. The Knicks don't play Jericho Sims anymore, and they would add Javonte Green into the rotation. Tom Thibodeau has shown interest in thickening out the rotation to a 9-man, which is absolutely perfect in my mind. The Knicks need to do that. This is the regular season where a 9-man rotation has to be the minimum. I'd prefer a 10-man personally, but I'll take the 9-man rotation. Now, the Knicks, this works out for them. They cannot take back any more money in a trade than what they give out. Jericho Sims and Javonte Green are on the same $2 million one-year contract, so you could swap them both. Knicks toss some second-round picks the Pelicans' way for their troubles. And then the Knicks get a guy who fits their team perfectly and fills a void for the team and also just rocks. Like, he'd be an awesome fit for this New York Knicks team. And meanwhile, Jericho Sims gets a fresh start with the Pelicans after having a down year with the Knicks and just never really getting it going because he never got a consistent role with the Knicks outside of his rookie season where he looked promising. I was actually against the Isaiah Hartenstein signing because I wanted the Knicks to move forward with Jericho Sims as their backup, given Jericho didn't work out. I think part of the reason is because he never really got a consistent role with the Knicks, and the Pelicans would have more use for him, especially as a guy who can play the 4 at times. Jericho would be interesting. He'd also be interesting on the Denver Nuggets, if you ask me, but there's no real reports that the Knicks and the Nuggets are working anything out, and it's harder to work that money out, unlike here where the Knicks can get a player back who's very important to the team in exchange for a guy who is really out of their rotation. And with Mitchell Robinson coming back in the coming weeks, there's just going to be no need for Jericho Sims while you still have Precious Achiuwa there to be your more undersized big. You have Ariel Hukporti waiting in the wings to really get his chance to show up. So the New York Knicks just don't need Jericho Sims anymore. Meanwhile, the Pelicans could use Jericho Sims a lot, and the Knicks could certainly use Javonte Green. Now, taking a look at Green's numbers, it's important to note that basically he's putting up great bench numbers. 6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 1 assist, nearly a block per game at 6'4", and getting a steal per game. This is off the bench. I mean, 38.6% from three, 43.5% on corner threes. The Knicks love to shoot that corner three ball. Javonte could absolutely come in and take some pressure off OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, who play a lot of minutes. I think that Javonte Green would grow on Tibbs very much instantly because Javonte just plays so hard. He doesn't care what his role is. He just wants to help the team win and is willing to do the dirty work to help do that. Similarly to Josh Hart, we've seen the Knicks have interest in Bruce Brown, who's another one of those dirty work guys. Now, Javonte Green even said it himself. I'm just trying to go out there and try to win, make winning plays, play as hard as I can, and just be professional. I want to do the things that got me here. I have to continue to do that. Javonte Green could not be more right about that. That is exactly what the New York Knicks need, too. They need another one of those guys to bring off the bench. Then you got guys who, Tibbs is going to love and who fit off the bench. Cameron Payne, Javonte Green, Precious Achiuwa, Mitchell Robinson. I can't really count to 4 right now because my finger's in a splint, but you guys know the point. That's a good 4-man bench. Honestly, it's not great. I'm not going to sit here and be like, guys, it's the best bench I've ever seen in my life. I think I'm going to pass out. No, but it is an actively fine bench. It is. Let's be real. I mean, Mitchell Robinson's a great player who will start sometimes depending on matchups and stuff, especially once the playoffs come around. Then Josh Hart will come off the bench, presumably. And, Josh Hart's way too good to come off the bench because Josh Hart's incredible. The Knicks have a lot of guys who could start. Cameron Payne has been awesome for the New York Knicks this season. Meanwhile, Precious Achiuwa's had a pretty good season as well. And let's just take a look at Achiuwa's numbers because, well, why not? Look, Achiuwa is a very solid player. He's putting up 5.5 points and 5.5 rebounds per game, blocking a shot and getting a steal per game, or almost getting each of those, with shooting 53% from the field and 37% from three, given that's on 6 attempts. So you shouldn't put too much stock into that. But he's been a great defender for the team. He's been good scoring the ball for the New York Knicks. He's been good defending, both on the perimeter and on the low block. He's continually gotten better, and Tibbs likes him. He's another guy who's just a nice bench piece to have and fits really well on the Knicks, considering the Knicks have the best shooting big man in the NBA in Karl-Anthony Towns. It makes perfect sense to keep Precious Achiuwa around. I know I have said I think the Knicks are going to trade Precious. I know I've been open to the Knicks trading Precious, but I don't really think they're going to anymore, if I'm being real. I think they like the way that Precious fits with the team, and Tibbs really likes him. And Tibbs does have a say in what the Knicks do. He's not calling the shots. Leon Rose calls the shots. But at the same time, we know Tibbs really likes Precious Achiuwa, and Leon does try to get players in the Knicks who are going to fit with Tibbs. Now, looking at the Knicks, this gives them a much better bench than they've had in the past. They get a lot of good stuff going for them as well because you still have that starting unit, and then you can take pressure off Mikal because you got a guy in Javonte who's a great corner three-point shooter, great spot-up shooter. Every single three he's made this year has been spot-up. He's just a good player for the New York Knicks to pick up. On top of that, he can replace Josh Hart, OG, Mikal for big minutes. And I think if the Knicks traded for Javonte Green, his minutes would only increase with the team. As time just keeps going on, he's basically going to give Josh Hart an excuse to not have to play 48 minutes a night in the playoffs. I do think we'll see Josh play around 42 minutes per game in the playoffs. But Javonte, who will be out there with Josh Hart, and 100% of the time that Josh Hart is not out there, would just be a perfect fit for the New York Knicks. It would just help them out a ton to have Javonte Green on this team, basically being another Josh Hart for cheap trade prices for a guy the Knicks don't really need on the roster anymore in Jericho Sims. Meanwhile, on top of that, they could also just throw some second-round picks around and then re-sign Javonte Green after the season and keep a guy around who's just helpful. The Knicks need to make sure that they can get Javonte Green because a lot of teams that are contending are going to have interest. Here's the thing. It's unclear how many true contenders there are. I think the Knicks are a true contender, given I don't think they're the favorites or anything. I think the Thunder are the favorites. I think the Boston Celtics are obviously true contenders. The Cavs have given us every reason to believe that they're true contenders, even if I personally think that style of a team with two scoring guards who aren't the best defenders, given I know Darius Garland has become a much better defender this season and has really shown a huge amount of upside. Meanwhile, is Donovan Mitchell really the best player on a championship team caliber player? We're yet to see. Playoffs show not so far. Dariel's been on that for a while. On top of that, in the West, there's the Thunder. The Mavs are just having terrible luck this season. I believe the Nuggets are still true contenders, honestly, because Jokic is the best player in the NBA. That's about it. There's only a couple teams that are really going to trade for Javonte Green, and I think the Knicks should be the number one caller. They should go to the Pelicans and do this as soon as humanly possible, because the Pelicans at this point are just trying to capture the flag and tanking. So Get Javonte Green off that team. The Pelicans have no shot at making the playoffs anymore, so they're better off just letting Javonte go for whatever the best haul they can get. And they don't want to take back Jaden Springer's contract because they don't want to take in more money. So this works out perfectly for the New York Knicks. I'm kind of talking myself into the fact that I think the Knicks could do this. I really, really want the Knicks to do this trade. I know it's not a sexy trade, but it is a very, very good trade. Also, the Jericho Sims, Javonte thing real quick. Huge shout out to James Edwards, who was the first guy to really discuss the Knicks trading for Javonte Green as a guy who they could trade Jericho Sims in a second-round pick for. It's just important to give James Edwards his credit because he's been an awesome, awesome guy covering the Knicks this season since coming over from the Detroit Pistons for The Athletic after Fred Katz left to cover the more general NBA. Look, I think that the New York Knicks are in a perfect spot to trade for Javonte Green, and frankly, I have nothing else left to say outside of subscribe to the channel, like this video, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks.